Good day, everybody. Hey, this is Rob Mazak. I am a psychic medium, and I do podcasts on lots of different topics. I take an idea or ideas, and I'm just going to let it run, see where we go, where I go anyway, see how the conversation unfolds. And so tonight, I'm not sure exactly what the idea or the topic is, but I think I would say, based on what I've been contemplating over the last several hours of the day, is what is it that I really want to get out of this life or the rest of the time that I have? And I think that would be a problem for most of us, probably all of us, to really, really know what we want. I mean, let's just face it, we have thoughts all the time about what it might be like to be rich and famous and have a thriving business or a wonderful partner or whatever it is that you dream about, going to the moon, being an astronaut, driving a race car. I mean, we all have those ideas, especially when we were younger. But how many of us really go after those things? I mean, I don't think there's a high percentage. And, I'm not saying that I'm 100% on board, because I tend to chase a lot of rabbits. Meaning, if you're trying to catch a rabbit, chasing after several of them means you're probably not going to get any of them. And so you really have to figure out what it is that you want to get out of life. And once again, I said this many times in my podcast, it doesn't really matter what that is. It's only special to you, and it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks, how anybody else feels. It really doesn't matter, because your idea and your dream is something you were brought into this life with. And I think all of us are imprinted with ideas and things that we have come into this life to do. And I think we might find ourselves classifying those as dreams. Maybe it's just destiny. I don't know. Not saying everything is hardcore wired and planned out, but I do think some of it is. But we certainly have free will, right? And that means that we get to decide, good or bad, on what we do every day. Even then, if you look at what is control, we always hear that saying, don't worry about the things you can't control, only worry about the things you can control. And I heard a speaker earlier when I was out walking for my little power walk ask that question, and it says, what does that actually mean? Because we say a lot of things. We say a lot of things that we have no idea what that really means and what it means to us. We just kind of repeat sayings that everybody has. And in some ways that makes sense, because there are some things in life you just simply cannot control. Things that happen to you, accidents, or get laid off, or your spouse leaves you, whatever. You didn't necessarily choose those, at least at a conscious level. What he talked about is there's only a few things that you can control. And I don't know if I remember all three, but the main one that I remember is we can control our thoughts. I mean, it doesn't matter if we're tied down to a bed and we're in some prison somewhere and we can't do anything, we can't move. We still have thoughts. Our thoughts are really probably the most important part of us as humans, in my opinion, because they do create. Thoughts are very similar to sound, if you think about it. It's just sound that doesn't reverberate out in the environment so that we can hear it with our ears. And sound, according to some theologians, I said that kind of slow, they compared rather the Bible, for example, when it talks about God speaking things into existence. Simply, sound does create, and sound does kind of correlate to thoughts. It's just basically a sound inside of your head. And I can tell you, I can give you many, many examples of using thought alone to create realities and to create things that come into the future. And you have to work at it, of course, and sometimes it happens right away, but not usually. What do we really get to control? I mean, we think we have choices, right? We're free, we're free. Yeah, well, I don't know if that's really all that true. I mean, we can choose the type of toothpaste we get, what kind of car we drive, where we work for the most part. These days it's hard to get a job. But there are choices that seem to make us feel like we are free and that we can make any choice we want. Let's just face it, we have laborious amounts of laws in this country and probably many others that really limit our freedoms. And if you really think you're free, try going against any of those things and you'll find out quickly you are not free. So I'm kind of diverting from the original idea here. But we don't necessarily know where we want to go in life or what it is that we want to do. I mean, we just kind of go on automatic pilot for the most part. We get up, well, at least I do. Let's just use me, for example. I get up in the morning around 4:30. I'm out the door by 5 o'clock in the morning. 35-minute drive to the camp where I work. I work out at the gym for 45 minutes or so. I go over to where my work is. I have some breakfast. I put my uniform on. Boom, I'm working 1500 or 3 o'clock for you civilians. I'm out the door, driving back in probably an hour to an hour and a half because of traffic then, back to where I'm staying in my RV. But the point is that is the cycle that happens every day. And yes, I can choose sometimes if I want to take a different route, or I want to, whatever I want to have for breakfast, or whatever I have for lunch, bring it, buy it. I mean, there's a lot of individual choices in there, but I think at the root of most of the things we do every day, they're not really choices per se, they're necessities. I mean, if I didn't have a job, then we could not have the house that we have, the RV we have, the vehicles we have, food, pay for our animal care. I mean, there's just a long laundry list of things that we cannot have unless we're willing to do the boring and monotonous things like going to a job. Don't get me wrong, my job is never boring. It is routine in a lot of ways. So is that something I want to do for the rest of my life? Well, not necessarily. It's a new challenge, it's a new job, and it's kind of interesting because I'm learning a lot of new things that I guess I thought I knew, but I don't. And so it does help me grow and come out of my comfort zone in some ways. But what is the ultimate ideal for what the rest of my life should look like? I also heard somebody talk on one of my motivational videos today that really kind of resounded with me today. I've heard it many times, but basically they were saying, why do we worry about what people think and how they feel? Because it really doesn't matter. Even some of the really, really great, outstanding people from the past probably are not even in our memory banks or in our books or even talked about. I mean, maybe the last 500 to 1,000 years, maybe some of them great people in there, but by and large, most people that have done great things, nobody remembers, nobody talks about, nobody cares about. What is the point of necessarily trying to do things to impress others? Because in a couple of generations, nobody's going to even know who I am or who I was. Because we can't escape death. Nobody has done it yet. I mean, there's been some stories written about some that have, but who knows if that's true. But the point is that we are here basically alone. Even though we're with people, there's people all around us. There's a lot of activity. There's other people doing jobs, working with us. I think you understand what I'm trying to say here is that we are not by ourselves, but we are alone in the fact that we only, or me and me only, and you only, are the ones that get to choose our path or what endeavors or ventures we would like to choose and move towards. I mean, at least in this country, in the United States, and in many others. But there are some countries, of course, where that is simply not possible. By and large, most people on this planet can make some choices about their life and take it in a direction. Every client I get, especially any new client that I bring on, one of the first questions I usually ask them is, What is it you want to get out of this session, or what is it you're here for? What is your dream for your life? What do you want out of life? Where do you want to go? And I venture to say better than 90% of people don't have a clue what they want to do or what they want to become. And that's kind of difficult in a lot of ways to become anything if you have no idea where you want to go. I mean, it's no different than getting in your car, starting it up and just driving. And you wonder why you end up where you end up because you didn't plan your trip. But how many of us do that? I don't think very many people do that. I can't imagine that we're just going to get in our car, waste some gas, and just go somewhere. And then, I end up in the slums or in a bad part of the city, find myself in a lot of trouble, blah, blah, blah. But what do we normally do? We get in our car, we go the same way, we know every time, or we put the GPS on and it guides us to where we're going to go. And so we plan many things in our life, but we don't really plan our life. Like I said, if you want to have things in life, you have to fall in line and you have to do the same things everybody else does. But what does it mean to be great? What does it mean to be something or somebody? Does that even really matter? Because if they're just simply going to be gone from everybody's memories as the generations come and go, it's almost like, what is the point? I think the true point, honestly, is that we come into this life and we have a certain amount of time, generally, right? 7,500 years. And we get to choose what we do at that time. Same 24 hours everybody else has. We don't necessarily use it like we should. We waste our time doing a lot of things that are not productive, just simply existing. I don't know about you, but existing is not my idea of a grand time. I want to be challenged. I want to have something different to do. And I get it. There is a lot of credibility in consistency because that's how you get better at something. Assuming you're getting better every day or over time, instead of looking back and it's the same old routine and the same thing, you haven't gone anywhere, you haven't progressed. Not a good plan, I don't think. I think that all of us can do almost anything in life that we want to do. There are, I'm sure, some limitations, of course, especially as you get older. At some point, you just simply can't do some things. I get it. If you really, really want something, if you truly, truly want something and you've really honed it down to exactly what that is and go after it with all your energy and all your fever and put aside some of the luxuries in life, turning off the TV, putting your phone down, going to bed later, getting up earlier, working harder, getting to work earlier, staying later, putting more time in, you can get those things in life. You really can. The sad part is that most people work that hard, sleep that little amount of time, do things in life that are not necessarily anything that's producing anything spectacular in their life other than a paycheck. Let's just face it, you got to have money, but it is not everything. Just chasing money is, I don't know about you, but I don't know that too many people talk about millionaires unless they've done something great in their life that just makes them stand out. I mean, just having money is not something that people are going to remember you for a long time. And granted, I would love to have a lot of money too. And we all would. But the thing is, I think the reason why I don't, and many people don't, have a lot of money is because we haven't really sat down and decided what we would do with a lot of money. Having a lot of money and saying, yeah, I'm going to pay my bills off, I'm going to help people, and just all these general statements and assumptions and manifestation, affirmation ideas, doesn't really work. I think the universe or God or the outside force, from the force that's outside of us, really wants to see how serious we are and what the plan looks like. I mean, let's face it, if you go down to the bank or you go somewhere to borrow money, it used to be a bank. Now it's a lot of different interesting ways to borrow money. However, I'll digress on that. But if you go down to the bank and you want to borrow money, they're not just simply going to loan you money, here you go. generally they want to know what that money that they're lending you is going to be invested in. How do they know that if you default, that they can get some value back on their lending you money? And they're also going to make sure that you actually have the means to support that loan, go towards that dream that you're buying or borrowing the money for. And I don't think that's any different from the universe or God. I think that they want to know how serious you are, because let's just face it, if we got everything that we ever desired the moment we thought about it, we would find ourselves in a world of trouble, a world of hurt. Things would just not go well. So I think that the actual silence or the answer of no or the negative response from praying or in some cases wishing that you could have something is a good thing, because we need that gap in there to assure the person we're asking that from, whether it's God, the universe, the bank, or whatever, that we are truly serious about where we're going to go. And so I think you see the impression I'm trying to make, and I'm just as guilty as everybody else. I mean, I have some really overall arching ideas that I would love to have a lot of money for, but have I really sat down and planned it out, got the architect involved and looking at it, all the eaches of everything? No, I haven't. And so in some ways it's more of a wish for me. But have I gotten some things in life by using my thought and affirmations and my efforts and going towards goals? I absolutely have. But there are some that just seem out of reach. And like I said, I'm just as guilty as everybody else that might be listening to this. Because when you're asking God or the universe for something that seems just astronomically large or quite impossible in the way we see life or the way we were raised or the way we were conditioned, it's really no different than asking for something small. If you look at some pastors out there, I think Joel Osteen says this a lot. Like him or don't like him, but one of the things that I really take away from him is he always talks about bold prayers. A bold ask. I mean, if you're going to ask for little menial things, help me pay my car note this month. Help me make my rent. I just need a little bit of money for food. Why aren't you asking for the mortgage, or paying off your house, or that big trip you want to go on, or that ranch you want to buy and help people with it, or whatever? Why aren't you asking for the big things? Because there's really no difference to the universe what size it is. It really comes down to the size of your belief. How much do you believe in what you're asking for? Even if you look at the stories of Jesus in the Bible, he never just walked up and healed people. He always asked them what they were seeking. He wanted to see where their faith was and what their belief system was made out of. We're not here to argue whether any of that's true. I'm just saying that's a really good example about believing in something so much that you're bold enough to ask for it and accept and believe that it's coming. You go on Amazon, right, or Walmart or anywhere else online and you order something, you have an absolute belief that once you click that button, it's going to show up at your door or in your mailbox at some point. Maybe not exactly when it says it's going to, but it's going to arrive. If you were ordering things online from Amazon or Walmart, like you pray for things to God or the universe, you would be broke, because you would be getting so many things because you just simply didn't believe it was going to come. And it may not be exactly a correlation, but I think you understand what I'm trying to do with that analogy, is that the belief system that we need to establish is got to be so great that there's absolutely no doubt in what we're asking for or what we're seeking or what we're going after. And if you waver on that, it just sets you back. And I'm not saying we're going to be perfect. Even those that have achieved great things have had low moments, mixed in with their high moments, and they've had doubts, and they've had plenty of times where they probably sat in their living room and thought, why am I doing this? I'm just going to quit. I get that. But I think if you really hang on to your goals or your ideas and work towards them and strive towards them and never give up, you can get those. Really, the only way you can fail is if you quit. And I hear a lot of people say, I'm just tired of starting over. Well, my answer is usually, why don't you stop quitting? Then you won't have to start over. And I get it. Sometimes we start on an idea and we start down a trail or going towards a goal that we think is what we want, and we get into it and we start to realize that, I don't mind putting the work in. I don't mind putting the late hours in, the early mornings, the hard work that goes with it. But I'm just not feeling it. It's not exactly what I thought it was going to be. And sometimes you do got to change your path. Because face it, we're living in a time now where there's a lot of change. And it's not like when I grew up where people worked for a company for 30, 40 years and that's all they ever did. Well, those times are gone. And so it's perfectly acceptable to start over and to do something else. But you got to be careful of starting over too many times. You're going to expend all your energy and you're not going to be anywhere or any further along than you were when you started out on the dream trail. I mean, remember when you were a kid? I remember sitting in my living room of one of the houses I grew up in Cleveland, Ohio. I don't claim Ohio very often, but, mostly a Texas guy. I remember sitting in a box in the living room, a plain box. And I had a little stick in my hand, and I had the encyclopedia out to how to fly an airplane. And I was actually practicing and dreaming about flying an airplane in my living room. And I did that over and over and over. Did I ever actually physically fly a plane? Not so much. A few times here and there. I went to aviation high school and got some stick time when I was in the Marine Corps here and there. I've been around aircraft and I've been on aircraft for a long time. I was a navigator in the Marine Corps for 4 years. I was on, medical flight teams. And so it may not be exactly the way I dreamed it to be as a kid, but something that I was born with, perhaps, something that was encoded in my DNA was telling me or nudging me into the aircraft world or the world of aircraft. I do believe that we are born with things, and I believe that when we're younger, we're a lot more accepting that we can actually do just about anything. I mean, you ask a child what they want to be, and they want to be an astronaut. They want to be, some I've actually heard want to be a dentist and all these things. I mean, we totally have the belief system when we're younger. So what changes? What happens? Where do we go wrong? We find ourselves indoctrinated in this society of going to work, eating, sleeping, consuming, and eventually dying. And I understand that's what life is. I don't think enough of us are taking the time outside of the necessity, carving out the time to do some things that are important to move towards some goal or some idea that you would like. And I'm not saying it has to be a massive goal or a massive dream or a massive path. It could be something very simple. Maybe you want to start a company where you make Christmas cards. It could be as simple as that. It doesn't have to be a mega $1 million company. If that's not your idea, then you don't need to do that. So you have to really figure out, I think, you have to really drill down what it is that you would like to experience in this life, and then just go after it and to do it. And some things simply don't need money. Some do, yes. But you got to have the idea and the direction and the discipline to actually go after it. I was going to say motivation, but motivation kind of lies to you sometimes, because I can tell you some of my goals require a lot of physical training. I have done it all my life, but when it's 29 degrees outside, I walk out of my RV and it's 29 degrees outside, and the gym I'm going to go to is not air conditioned or heated, I don't feel very motivated to drive there and go to that gym. You have to really put your feelings aside a lot of times, and you have to just go and do things because it's the thing that you need to do. Action is also a very big part of that. We talked about belief and the absolute specific directions or ideas, but you also cannot do it simply by sitting on your couch and thinking about it. Yes, thought is very powerful, and it's probably the biggest part of the equation. However, you actually have to step forward and start doing something with that. Just because you visualize yourself being a professional goalkeeper or something, right? You can't learn that sitting on the couch. You have to actually go out and do it. You can visualize it, in between times that you practice and you play, but you can't do it simply by thought alone. And yes, it is a way to condition yourself. There's plenty of science behind it. I'm sure you do. Is that there's several components to getting something out of life, but number one thing, in my opinion, is deciding what it is you would like to go after. If you're going to spend your money and your time on something, it should be something that you want to do and you would like to be, or somewhere you like to go. Whatever that is, small, big, strange, weird, who cares? It is your dream, your goal, your ideas, and it really doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. I think that's the biggest, one of the other biggest problems we have is we really, really, really seem to care about what other people think and how they feel. And we spend so much time, buying houses and cars and clothes and doing things to impress people that are complete strangers that we'll never meet in a lot of ways or never see again. Who really cares if you're driving a car that's, 15 years old or driving a brand new Rolls Royce? Yes, that's nice to have. But what is the point if you're going after a dream and spending money on a Rolls Royce would not fit into the equation? Why would you do that? So you need to make choices. You need to make sacrifices in order to get what you want. That's just the way it is. You're going to have to put aside some things, minimize your binge watching. Don't scroll on your phone so often. Talk to your friends on the phone, going out clubbing. You have to really kind of pull back from that things. And if you're really serious about it, you will do those things. I'm not telling you to do that. I'm just making suggestions, throwing ideas out there. Because nothing great has ever come without sacrifice. You absolutely have to give up something. We have to have the idea, the specific path put out in front of us. We have to have the belief. We have to have the action. But we also have to continue at it and not stop and be consistent. You have to actually go after these things day by day, every day, even if it's an inch at a time. It doesn't matter. I think I have beat up this idea enough, but I really want everybody to understand is that we have to live life on purpose. We absolutely have to live life on purpose instead of just waking up like an accident and letting the world dictate who we are, what we are, and what we're doing. We should be doing that for ourselves and really get out of our shell and start moving in a direction that we would like to move into. Decide that and let's get going. I would encourage you guys to go to my website, look at my contact page, and you can contact me in a variety of ways. My website is lifebymazak.com, lifebymazak.com. And I really look forward to working with you guys, hearing from you, because I learn from everybody I work with. They learn from me, I learn from them. We all learn and we all grow together. And I would really, really, really love to hear from you guys and to work with you guys. You will hear from me many, many more times. I hope to hear from you guys. Stay strong and live your life.